Getting a US visa is hard enough, but what's even harder is applying and interviewing for two different kinds of visas. In this video, we're going to tell Vinny's story of getting an F1 and H-1B work visa, student and work, to help you guys be most prepared and not get rejected. Check it out. Hey friends, welcome to Chine Coaching. I'm Rob. At Chine Coaching, we're all about helping you find success in your cross-cultural journey. We've loved helping hundreds and thousands of students get their visas abroad, especially to America. Student visas, work visas, tourist visas. And we've got our friend Vinny, who's going to be talking about his visa interview experiences, an F1 student visa, an H-1B work visa, and then stay tuned to the very end because we're going to give some special tips and resources to help you out. But Vinny, welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Rob. This time, this is kind of, again, also amazing experience because you are in my office.
Yes.
And then you are at UTA. So this is Dr. Vinayak Kaushal. I am an assistant professor of instruction in civil engineering department at UTA. Have been associated with UTA and this department for the last now about 7 years, and then has been a great journey, and then look forward to many more in time to come.
Definitely. So let's start with your F1 student visa. Give us kind of the background. What was the preparation, the details, and everything you had to do leading up to the interview?
Right. Let me just say how we start with and where from we start. So when the students, like, international students, they apply, they basically get an I-20 from a school wherever they are sitting at their home address or wherever. So based on that, they then apply for the visa depending on which university and so forth they select or shortlist. And then depending on that, they basically look for the nearest consulate, like talking about the case of India. Well, where I come from, the nearest consulate is New Delhi. So I just booked this slot. So first of all, I filled the DS-160, which is the form wherein you apply for the visa, and then thereafter you get a slot for the nearest consulate. Or actually it doesn't really matter if it is nearest, but depending on the slot availability and so forth. Then you basically know when you are appearing for the interview, and for sure it has to be a month or at least a month or a few weeks before you join in here, because just in case you apply and then you look for the date and so forth which you get from the consulate, right? So embassy. Then essentially you know about the program, where you're going, the city you're going, or how the expenses and so forth are going to be covered, and who is sponsoring your travel, who is sponsoring your journey or your stay there. And then also your education, if it is student loan or if it is self-funded, or your family is going to support that, or you yourself, if you have some work experience and you have some sum collected over the period of time, say like 10-15 years you were in the industry or somewhere, and then you decided on for higher education. So in that case, basically you have your own self funds and so forth. So depending on that, you basically state whatever is there. And then for particularly at the time of the interview, you are asked such a kind of questions, because whatever you state on DS-160 is basically recorded. And now if there are some discrepancies or some questions they might have, so the visa interview might last for 5 seconds to maybe a few minutes. And then depending on whatever questions they have, they can clarify.
So is there any other details about when you showed up at the consulate there in Delhi?
Okay.
What was it like with the line? When did you get there? What was like the experience when you arrived at the consulate?
So, what I would say, basically when you arrive that city, depending on the slot which you have got, if it is an early morning or afternoon or evening slot, make sure that you are fresh and then you are on time or ahead of time. Say like, because they get you to line, say like is 30-minute or 20-minute or 10-minute slot. So make sure the key is to be on time, ahead of time, and live at the nearby place if you are.
Stay close by.
Yes, stay close by, I would say, because you don't want to be hustling on and then struggling on to reaching the place and you are late.
Yeah, and you came from a small town up in the mountains.
I did.
So you want to give yourself plenty of time.
Exactly.
No delays, so that way you're not late or rushed and miss it. So lots of extra cushion in your travel plans.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so you waited in the queue, and then it's your turn to go to the counter. Tell us what your actual visa interview experience was like. What was the questions and what was the answers?
Sure. So basically, the things which you have in with yourself is basically your passport, your I-20, and your appointment confirmation, your fee receipt which you have paid to the embassy for getting the visa and slot and so forth. So these things are basically checked in when you are in the queue. Before they want to make sure this is the right person, and then they also make sure that you don't have any sort of gadget or anything in your pocket, which is very important. They're very sensitive on those things. And then they basically have you, after they identify you to be the right person, then they have you to get in. Just before that, there is another thing which is called as biometric, which is done like in the morning or just before the interview, which is like in the morning or maybe it has to be before the interview if it is a few days ago, or if it is a day before or in the morning. So they want to make sure that you have already got your photograph and your biometrics done before you get to the interview. And then is basically you are in the queue, and then your name is called on, and then depending on where you are in the queue, you are called on for the window interview. Incidentally, the person who was in front of me got rejected.
Oh no.
and then that was kind of like a nightmare. And then, well, it was my turn. So luckily, the visa interviewer was very sweet. He just asked me about my degree program, which I am coming or going to the US, who is going to fund your travel there or your studies there, and then what does your parents do, if they're working or they are businessmen or stuff like that, and then how long you're going to be there, and then if you know anyone in the US other than just the university or the department, any family relationship, and then better not to basically say much about those things, because that confuses the interviewer. And then also they were concerned about if what you're going to be doing after the end of the program, future plans and those kind of things. And then how much do you know about that program which you're going to be entering, and then if it is related to what you did in the past, which means that my undergrad and so forth. So you have to kind of make a relationship or how to connect those things pretty much. So, and then luckily just they said, well, enjoy your journey, and then your visa has been approved. And
so it got approved.
So, and then
after the rejection before you.
Yeah, exactly. And then usually like it takes about a week or 10 days for it to arrive to your collection center, which is the passport collection center, and they take your passport.
Yeah. So with your visa interview, no major issues.
No.
Simple questions, simple answers.
Yeah.
That's great. So before we cover the H-1B visa, first of all, friends, if this video is helpful, make sure you hit that like button to say thanks to Dr. Vinny sharing his story. And our chai questions for you guys is, which visas are you applying for? In this video, we're covering F1 and H-1B, but let us know which visas or visa interview you're preparing for. Tell us in the comments. We'd love to see which variety we have going on here in the Chai coaching community. So now, Vinny, you got your F1 visa. Now you're going for H-1B, a work visa. So tell us what that process is like. I know it's a little bit different. So what was kind of the preparation and arrangements and everything leading up to doing an H-1B visa interview?
Right. Every individual with F1 one day is looking for striving for H-1B because he or she wants to work in the US. Now with F1, if it is a STEM program, you can work up to 3 years, and then within that time your organization where you're working at should sponsor you within that time. My case was a little different because I was in the non-profit organization UT Arlington, and usually the health organizations or some NGOs or education institutions, they can sponsor you at any time within those 3 years and within any time of the year, and that doesn't go through lottery.
Separate from the lottery.
Separate from the lottery.
This is the non-cap H-1Bs,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, but I'll be talking in general about H-1B and then academic H-1B. So what you got to do is basically enjoy your 3 years of OPT, which is optional practical training period. But within that time, make sure that the organization knows that you are interested for serving here, staying here, so that they can, buck up for your paperwork and so forth. Well, what is needed is, for example, your educational certifications which you have passed, or your degrees from back in from your home state or home place. For example, your bachelor's degree, then your date of birth certificate, for example, and also things like your mark sheets or detailed mark certificates, and then also a little bit about what you have been doing currently, and then of course your transcripts from before, and also the program which you recently passed out, those kind of things. And then another thing which I can think of is also there is an application for H-1B which your HR of that organization basically fills out, and then depending on what information and so forth you provide to them. So there's a whole lot of information related to you, of course, and then what are your responsibilities at the job which you are currently, and if it is beneficial to the organization where you're working. So and then just try to kind of they set up a link between what you're doing and then what they are basically looking for, and then how it is going to be helpful to the organization. So these are some of the things which H-1B for. Now the only difference is that for the non-cap places, it is basically they can do it round the year, it doesn't go through lottery, and it is very quick. For the other places, which is where everybody, almost everyone is part of, is basically it is usually around March, April, springtime, and then also the outcome and so forth comes in fall. So when your your H-1B period starts, and then after you get your H-1B, you can stay for 3 years, and there is an extension for another 3 years, so it's kind of 6 years total. And then within that time is a whole story, different story, that they can apply for your I-140 and initiate your green card process. And then so these are some of the things which you got to, which is the process which everybody goes through if they like to stay in the US.
Where did you do your H-1B interview at?
For my case, since it got approved, for example, in December of year 2020 or so forth, so then I was here. I was kind of stuck because of COVID time. I could not travel home. So you could go any place outside India, it is outside the US. It is always preferred that you go your home country because of obvious reasons. So I managed to then travel after 1 year, and then before I did, it is a kind of suggestion that you should have your appointment scheduled with the embassy to make sure that when you get in, you have your visa stick to the passport. So I did that again in the US, in the New Delhi, same way, pretty much the whole procedure. And then I got my approval letter, H-1B approval letter with myself, which was the only document. Like it was I-20 for F1. So it was H-1B approval letter for H-1B visa.
And is that from the company or from USCIS?
From the USCIS to the company.
Okay.
And company hands over to you.
Gotcha.
Pretty much that was the thing. And then I had my biometrics and then my photograph, before I would present myself at the visa interview.
All right. So, all right. Now tell us, you're there, you're in the queue, visa officer, what was your interview questions and answers for H-1B like?
Right. So it was, of course, different from F1 because now they know that I'm already working there, and it was kind of prestigious because you are a professor at the university, and interestingly, the same university where you were a student,
Mm-hmm.
right? Essentially, they just asked me that, which course or what are your job responsibilities, what is your title, how long you have been working there, your salary, and those kind of things. And then location, if it is changed, or, about the nearby airport, or
Mm-hmm.
they just want to make sure that if it's a real scenario or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you also, like for my case, they were asking me if it's just teaching or also research, and then those kind of things. How many classes do you teach, or what is your work schedule, and those kind of things. So yeah, that was, and then it was again approved. Yeah.
Woo!
So yes.
Awesome. So now that you've been through two different types of visa interviews for two visas, what's one or two tips you would give to people who are preparing so they can be most successful in their visa interview?
Right. I'm going to first maybe cover F1. So F1, I would say that know your program, know the city where you're going, know about some of the pros and cons about choosing, why did you choose, or how many admits did you get from here and there, or if you just applied for one university. And then also know about why did you choose that university, and then know about the financial implications, know about where the money is going to come from, and never ever say that you have a strong kind of feeling of staying there and so forth. Be kind of open to things, and then just say that, well, at this point I am I'm not sure, and then rather you should say that you are just for going for your study purpose, and then you come back. And then things change eventually, and they also they are aware of the fact. But at that point you should not be saying something which is very dicey, or that tries to it goes against your case. And then also don't express a strong desire in staying there and so forth. Another thing is you should know the financial implications, who is sponsoring, what your parents are doing, or how much is going to cost, and then how much do you have and how much you are getting from for example, in the form of educational loan and those kind of things. This is a personal suggestion that do not very much say, even if you have your relatives out there, just say that you are just by yourself, and then you don't want to, you don't know anyone there, because that complicates the scenario. Because now then they link you to them, and then they have all the information out there. So it's better to just talk about yourself, that's it. For H-1B, I would say you should know, first of all, your case should be very clear. The company should be, like E-certified and those kind of things. And then you should know your jobs and responsibilities. You should know your paycheck. You should know about, how much you're getting, what are the deductions, and then if it is, how many employees work there, and then some of the nuts and bolts of the company. And then what is your position there, and then what are you looking at, what are you looking forward to in time to come. And then so you should be very much, and then above all, the key is confidence, talk to them, look at their eyes, and then say with full confidence. So that's it pretty much.
Great, I totally agree. And one more helpful resource if you guys will need to be extra prepared is Argo Visa. Argo Visa is a Chine Coaching approved partner. It's a team of people who are all ex-US visa officers who've conducted millions of visa interviews, and you can book a coaching call with them to do a mock interview. If you've been a rejection, they can help you figure out why. If it's stuck in 221G administrative processing, they'll help you get it unstuck. They've got a new cool tool. They have an AI assessment tool where you go online, it's free, put in your information, kind of some of the details, and it'll spit back an answer to tell you how prepared you are for your visa interview. If you've got good questions, good information, if there's some red flags. So go check out Argo Visa. We've seen huge success acing visa interviews, overturning rejections. So I really want you guys to check them out. And yeah, hopefully follow Vinny's tips as well. Vinny, thank you so much. This has been great. Thanks for sharing your visa interview journeys.
Thank you, Rob, and then thanks for coming to UT and my office.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to have you and talking with you, and look forward to many more like that.
Yeah, we've made another video together before as well.
Sure,
some great
sure.
tips for incoming students
Sure.
and funding. So if you want to learn about funding, check out his other video as well. Connect with us online on LinkedIn and Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed to our Chine Coaching e-newsletter for other great tips and resources and upcoming events. And thank you for being part of the Chine Coaching community. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, take care.
Cheers, everybody.